The CryptoMan can help you understand cryptocurrency, starting with Bitcoin and moving all the way through the hundreds of other altcoins and penny cryptos, I call them, like penny stocks. You can buy them for under $1 a piece. Matter of fact, my friend Greg and I he gave me $10 to put in, and for $5 we bought 10,000 coins for this one particular one called Ken, K-I-N, not to be confused with my name, Ken, K-E-N. So anyway, when these cryptos first come out, and they all started like 2009 with the first original coin, was called the Bitcoin, and then there's a blockchain architecture support platform that most of these cryptos run on. Now I'm not going to be going into that. What I'm going to be going into is once you buy cryptos, and now for me, I'm focusing on the inexpensive ones, like on my t-shirt here. I have 66 different cryptos listed on here, and like I said, many of these cost less than $1 each to get into. So for $50 I can get a number of them, and usually I average $50, $100, maybe $200 investing in a particular coin. Of course, you do have some fees that you have to pay along the way, especially when you're transferring money from one exchange to another. Most of the exchanges do not take fiat currency. That's hard dollar currency. So what I started with is putting money from a credit card, $200, into an online exchange called Coinbase. It's C-O-I-N-B-A-S-E. And once you got your money into one of the exchanges, then from there you can buy cryptos either within that exchange or you can buy it on other exchanges. And there are hundreds of exchanges out there all over the world. So Coinbase is based in the United States. It's one of the oldest, most reliable ones, and I feel pretty good. It's very user-friendly, but it's limited into what the things you can do, and their fees are kind of high. Their fees are 1.5% if you're trading within the Coinbase exchange, and it's quite limited. You can only get four types of coins on Coinbase. You can get the original Bitcoin, it's just BTC, and then you can get Bitcoin Cash, which is a hard fork. Instead of a stock split, they call them forks, and that's pretty new within the last 6 months that's been created. And then they have the Ethereum, it's ETH, and then they have Litecoin. Now those four make up the biggest majority of the most well-known and most reliable Bitcoins. Now here is a caveat. I heard this when I first got into this, which has only been a little over a month ago, is that on any investment, do not put in more money than you're willing to lose, because you could lose everything. It's like the stock market could crash and you could lose everything. So don't go jumping out of a window and getting panicked when the market goes down, like it did January the 16th. The market has gone down 50% or more and hasn't recovered yet. So I'm not panicked. I'm just holding, and they spell that H-O-D-L. Someone misspelled it, and it's stuck. So cryptocurrency kind of has its own little language that comes about, like FUD, F-U-D, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's used in other places too, but within the crypto community, there's certain language that you pick up on that's kind of fun. Now, what I'm going to talk about today are crypto trackers. What do you do when you get more cryptos than you can keep up with? Now, thankfully, there are free software that will run on your phone. I started one called Blockfolio on my Android phone, Samsung phone. It's free of charge. I downloaded it from Google Play, installed it. Of course, I had to take something else off. That's always happening with my phone, seems like. I never have enough memory. But I installed it, and what I'm going to try to take you through right now is from a fresh installation, going through adding 2 or 3 cryptos and letting you see what Blockfolio can do for you. Now later, I'm going to do some more YouTube videos on the other cryptocurrency trackers that I'm using. One is called Alt Pocket, runs on a PC, very, very user-friendly. And then there's one called Crypto Compare, which is very powerful. And the neat thing about it allows you to track multiple portfolios. I have almost 20 portfolios in there that I'm tracking. Some of them are real, some of them are fantasy. Now what I like about the fantasy ones is I can pretend that for example, for my ex-wife Lee, she's the one that got me into this back in December of last year. She calls up, middle of December, she says, "Do you know anything about this thing called Bitcoin?" I don't know. I don't. I've heard of it, but I really don't know it. But I'll research it and get back to you. And when I did, I noticed I couldn't believe it. December 17th, the cost of a single Bitcoin, one coin, was over $19,000. Now, I looked at the chart, and it had made a big spike back to January of last year, 2017. It was under 1,000. So can you imagine had I bought back in January and sold when it spiked? Now, things aren't so great right now. Prices come down from $19,000 area to the $8,000 area, which is the last ones I bought were $8,000. And nice thing about this is you do not have to buy an entire unit like you do in the stock market. You have to buy a single stock or 2 stocks or 3. And if they're expensive stocks, you just can't do that much. With cryptocurrency, you can buy fractional parts. And the other thing that's neat about it is that it is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 366 on leap year, and you can trade anytime you want, which is great. And sometimes it's so volatile that you'll see swings of $1,000 or $2,000 in less than 24 hours. So if you want to be like a little day trader, you can make some money. You can also lose some money. You know, so like I said before, do not put more money in than you're willing to lose, because you could very well lose it all. Now, will they outlaw cryptocurrency? No, don't think there's a chance. It'd be kind of like saying, well, we don't like the internet, so we're going to do away with it. Well, cryptocurrency is so far advanced now that there's no way it's going to be turned back by any government or anything. Yes, it's been used for dark things like trading, or buying and selling drugs. The Silk Road website was notorious for selling weapons and all kinds of things, and they used cryptocurrency to conduct that business. Dark hat hackers have used cryptocurrency in the past to extort money from people. They hack in, they steal the software, steal your data, wipe out your systems, and then contact you to say, if you want your stuff back, send us so much cryptocurrency. And Bitcoin was the big one that people hear about. All these other little ones, never heard of mostly. And each little cryptocurrency has a niche. And when they get ready to do what's called an initial coin offering, they write up a white paper, they create a website, and they have a time of pre-sale. That if you get in then, you might make more money. Well, you might not. But ICOs are something that I first started with the true blue Bitcoin, Ether, Litecoin, and then I moved over from the Coinbase over to GDAX, that's GDAX exchange, It's simply gdax.com. It happens to be owned by the same people who own Coinbase. Now, the big difference is that GDAX is much more technical. You can do things like place limit orders and all kinds of things like you would in the regular stock market. And the best part about it is some of the trades are free. Some of the trades are only 0.25%, whereas Coinbase is 1.5%. So it's a lot cheaper to make your trades. Now, when I first got in to Coinbase, I cautiously put $200 in, bought a little of that, a little of this, and then I wanted to see how quickly can I get my money back into my savings account. So I did that, and then I transferred some money in from the savings account into the, I established a link between my bank. Matter of fact, I was so scared, I went out and opened a whole new account just to do trading at a totally separate bank than what I normally use. So I put some money back and forth, and the bad thing about it is it takes 7 to 10 days for money to get from your bank over to the Coinbase USD wallet. Now, once you got in the USD wallet in Coinbase, it's protected. It's dollar for dollar. Now, there is no insurance. There is no FDIC that covers this. There are no government agencies that protect your money. Now, it's a wild, wild west. Like I said over and over, you could lose everything. Exchanges can get hacked, and people, they have been, and they can go bankrupt, and you know, so it's my philosophy is spread it out. When I get one that increases in value, or shoots to the moon, as they say, when it doubles in value, then I sell half of it, so I've got my original investment back, and now I'm playing with the house's money. That's my strategy. I've heard others say that. Seems to make sense to me. So that once the market recovers, that's going to be the strategy I'm going to continue with. Now, what happens to me with this? Very similar to what happened to me in 1975. In 1975, I was 25 years old, and I was working for Western Electric Corporation. I don't know if any of you remember them. They made the telephone sets, the electronics that made telephone switching possible in central offices and in private branch exchanges, pre-BXs. And at age 19, I went to work in the Oklahoma City Works, in the factory there, third shift. And after a couple of years, I got laid off. And so I went into the installation division, installing these PBXs, public branch exchanges. Matter of fact, that's how I met my second wife. That's what brought me to St. Louis, Missouri the first time, as I came here for training out on Woods Mill Road. I came here 3 different times for training. But in 1975, after having worked for Western Electric for 5 years total, I got laid off a second time. And oh, I took it hard. I really took it hard, because I had planned to work for them until I was 72 years old, and when they forced me to retire. That was my commitment to them. And the one thing I kept asking, why did I lose my job, my career? You know, it came to an abrupt end. And the one word I kept hearing was, well, the new PBX system is about the size of a refrigerator. And the others were big, take up a whole room. They wheeled this thing in, they set it down, plug it in, and put in a tape from Bell Laboratories, and they programmed that switch to do its function. And the main thing I remember hearing was that this new system was microprocessor based. I'd never heard of a microprocessor. Now, that same year, 1975, Popular Electronics, I think it was, had a cover story on a computer called the Altair that was built out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Matter of fact, it was a kit, wasn't even built. And this is, you might remember, this is the same computer that Bill Gates left Harvard and went to Albuquerque to write a programming language, which language already existed. Matter of fact, Dartmouth University wrote it first. It's called BASIC, Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. Well, Bill Gates wrote one for the 8080 processor that was used in the Altair. And he used timeshare and paper tape from a teletypewriter in order to accomplish that. And the entire program was about this thick and about 8 inches long of paper tape folded back and forth. And that took up a total of 8K, that's 8,000 bytes of memory. Not 8 meg, not 8 gig, as we're common today, 8K. And the next version of his BASIC was 9K BASIC. Now here's the way it worked on those old computers. Is the computer was like 24 inches wide and maybe 8 or 10 inches tall, and it had humongous power supply. Capacitors were huge. They didn't have these modern switching power supplies back in those days. And the computer had like 22 slots. And it was called the S100 bus. It had 100 pins, and the boards drew like an amp of current for each board that went in there. And the boards like had 4 or 8K of memory in them. So anyway, what you would do is you first turn on the computer. It knew nothing. And it would just sit there, nothing. So you'd start flipping some switches, depositing memory into the first few bytes of the memory. And then you'd get to the point you'd click on execute or run, and this will start running this little program, and that program would give the computer enough intelligence to read some paper tape that was called a bootstrap loader. Now, that gave the computer a little bit of error checking. At that point, you could load your programming language, which in this case was BASIC. That whole process would take 30 minutes or more. Now, if you had one little power glitch, boom, you lost everything. You had to start over again. I remember spending hours and hours and hours trying to get the computer up to a point that we could demonstrate it to people. And if you were at a trade show, it was just helpless. Of course, you didn't have the internet. So if you wanted support, you had to call and wait for hours and hours and hours to get somebody to try to help you. But anyway, those times between 1975 and 78, when companies like Apple, Radio Shack, Commodore started coming out with assembled computers, were very, very exciting times for me. I found myself with a group of about 20, maybe 30 geeks like myself. I remember one guy had long gray hair, had a little ponytail in the back. He was a meteorologist, professor at Oklahoma University in Norman. And his friend, Lee Lilly, he was interested in the library. Both of them wanted to build their own computers. Lee wanted to automate the library functions, and Don wanted to use it for meteorology. I had a very small budget. I had a budget of $100, and one day we had a guy, Roger Walton, and our little computer club was called Central Oklahoma Amateur Computer Association. It was a mouthful. And our charter was to help each other learn how to build our own computers on a very small budget. Well, one day we had a guy stood up, Roger Walton, and he worked for a company called EBKA, E-B-K-A, and they're in Oklahoma City, and he was an engineer, and he had designed this little single board computer. It's very much like the MOSTEC KIM, K-I-M computer. Just a little computer, a little power supply, had 16 hexadecimal keys, it had a little 2-digit display, and you could program it in hexadecimal, and you could see your answer in the hexadecimal displays. Well, the displays were like, oh, I don't know, $20 each, and the keys were very expensive. They were Cherry key switches. So, and the whole computer only had 1K of RAM memory, and it had some ROM memory as well. But anyway, I remember getting mine done on a budget, and it was $115 total. $15 over my budget. And in those days, I was basically drawing unemployment. I was a part-time student at OSU University, and I was trying to find anybody that could teach me about a microprocessor. They didn't teach it at OSU. They didn't teach it at other schools. They didn't know about it themselves. Even though OSU Tech had bought 20 of these computers from Roger, they didn't have any program, not program, but any classes, no courseware to use those to teach others. So I was an electronics student, so I was an electronics major, and I also took some computer courses, COBOL, Fortran, and we were using an IBM 360 computer, which is a mainframe, and it used punch cards. So we had to use hollow to 80 column punch cards and punch in our code, punch in the JCL cards, have a deck of cards to run, you know, to tell the computer how to read the cards. And then the output was from a high-speed printer. You had to run the cards, you did a printout, you know, and I would sit there between classes, and I had my little computer with me, and I would sit there and program in machine language, and I could make LEDs come off, on and off, and chase each other around, and make all kinds of patterns, and do all kinds of interesting things. And since I was an engineering student, I wanted to interface. I saw the day that someday someone would need to be able to design interfaces between these microprocessors and the real world. And now you see, I mean, so many things, you know, video capture cards and on and on and on. But I had a Chevy pickup truck. I remember a little gold truck with short wheel bed, and I would go to the junkyard. And we had some manufacturers other than Western Electric. We had Control Data and several others there in Oklahoma City. And I would go out there and I would find anything that looked like it could be used to build a computer with. And I would stack up this big pile of stuff. And then, much, much bigger than what I could afford. And I would ask them for a price. They'd give me a price. And I said, okay, how about if I just buy this half? And then, of course, cut the price in half. And I would buy the half that I wanted. So I stuck all the stuff that I really wanted over on that side. And so I'd load up my truck and I'd drive home. I was living with my girlfriend and had a single car garage. I would unload that stuff. I would sort it. I would clean it. I cut a hole in between her garage and the attic of her house. I floored the attic, and I got these little cardboard boxes from Granger's, and I would put these parts all in there. And I used to buy Playtex little nursery bags, nursery bottles, and I had a seal-a-meal machine, and I would print on 3x5 index cards. I gave it a number, and of course I got real creative and put a 32-digit type number in there, the 32 base 32 numbering system. And anyway, I named my company Computers for Everyone. I imagined someday everyone would have a computer. Had no idea it'd be in the form of a cell phone, but I was so stupid. I didn't even know how to spell computers. I spelled it C-O-M-P-U-T-O-R-S. Yeah, instead of E-R-S, O-R-S. Had plastic sign made to stick on the side of my car, my truck, so it looked official. Business cards made and all that stuff. But anyway, I could go on and on about this part of my story, and that's not what I intended to do on this video. What I wanted to do was to share with you this tracker software called Blockfolio. And what I'll do right now, since I've talked so long, is I will just wrap up a little bit with what I'm telling you about why I was so excited back there in the 70s. Yes, it was exciting meeting people like Bill Gates and all the movers and shakers like Woz and Jobs and those guys in those early days. But one day at our computer club meeting, a guy stood up, big afro, he was a white guy, big afro, and he said, I want to invite you guys to come to my retail computer store. First one in Oklahoma City. The grand opening. So I went, and I got there kind of late, and introduced myself to Charles. And I said, Charles, one of these days somebody's going to want to, they're going to build one of your kits, but it's not going to work, and they're going to need help. Or they're not going to want to build it, they want to hire somebody to build it for them. I said, I don't care for any money, but I want to be your first employee. And I want a stock option agreement. So based on that, a handshake agreement, I became the first employee of High Technology Incorporated in Oklahoma City. Now, High Tech was founded by John Symington, Charles Weddington, and then I became the first outsider to join them with a stock option. It was just a handshake agreement for a couple of years. Well, not long, I was working at Woods Petroleum as a computer operator. I was going to school, still part-time, I was over at the retail computer store doing some work on the service department. It was just a little hole-in-the-wall store. It was in the very front of a music synthesizer manufacturer called PIA, P-I-A-I-A, or something like that. That was John Symington's company. And so anyway, we get a phone call, and Pat Weddington, Charles's wife, took the call, and it was Charles calling from the West Coast Computer Fair in California, San Francisco, California. And he had called to say, hey, I found this incredible computer. It's called the Apple II, and I'm going to stay until I get a distribution agreement signed with him. And he did. He, Woz, Jobs, Markula, all the top people, Scotty, they all agreed with Charles on a distribution agreement, and we became, High Technology became Apple's first and biggest distributor in the United States. Now, eventually, Apple signed 5 other distributors, and so 6 distributors covered the entire USA. Now, that was exciting, because when Charles came back from the West Coast, he had Apple serial number 17. It didn't even have the plastic case. It was just the metal, this power supply, the circuit board, and a keyboard. Keyboard was separate. But it was enough, because we could demonstrate it, we'd hook it up to a color TV, and we could show people how that, bam, you turn it on, and beep, the little light would come on, and boop, Apple II would pop up on the screen, and you could program immediately in BASIC. Instead of spending all that time loading a paper tape, Apple had put the BASIC right there. Now, it wasn't Microsoft's BASIC, it was one that Woz wrote, quick and dirty. But it didn't have floating point, it didn't have a lot of stuff, but it let you get in and write little programs, like, for example, print hello, quotes, put the hello in quotes, and it would, whoop. If you say run, it would print hello, okay? And if you say 10, print hello, okay? Run, whoop. If you say 10, then they take 20, go to 10, run. It would say list, and it would show it to you, and you say run, and it would go woo, and it would just fill the screen with hello. Modify just a little bit, say 10, print hello, comma, and then run, and it would go woo. It would print the word hello all in columns. Now, you would never dream about doing that with a mainframe computer. You wouldn't run a program that had an endless loop. That would lock the whole computer up. It would take up all kinds of CPU time. But this is a personal computer, and you hit the reset, and boop, you're back in control. I mean, this is revolutionary, because you could do things that you'd never dream about doing with a mini computer or a mainframe computer. So I fell in love with the Apple II. Matter of fact, I still have an Apple II. It's 40 years old now, and I was showing it to Greg the other day and telling him about how that in my retail store I had a guy walk in one day and he wanted a job, and he was blind as a bat. And I said, Martin, his name's Martin, of course. I said, Martin, what could you possibly do? I said, we're a retail computer store. He said, oh, he said, I've got my ham radio license. He said, I can solder. I understand Morse code. He said, you put a program in there that'll play Morse code, I can communicate with that computer without any monitor. And we did. We did it. And he was incredible. I remember he would answer phones for us. And we had those old-fashioned phones that had lights on each line. And I noticed he would get down there and put his eyeball right on top of the light in order to know which line to answer. Then one day I heard him go, wow! We'd had one of the a demo program for Apple. We had up on a big projection TV playing, and it had changed colors so fast that he caught that. You know, so not only were normal people being excited about this Apple thing, others were too. Now, my customers would get a little concerned about having Martin, blind as he was, installing their memory. Because at that time, memory, 8 pieces of memory, 8 little 16-pin dips, cost $600 retail. And they came in an aluminum tube about the length of a curtain rod. And one day, we had a Quonset hut out in the back where we stored our apples. One time we got a shipment so big we had to get a security guard because they were too much to fit in the warehouse. But anyway, we found a whole trash can full of these aluminum things that had memory in it. There must have been $40,000 worth of memory. Somebody's thrown away. They thought they were curtain rods. So I have story after story after story of things that have happened, you know, and Apple Mania. Wow, I mean, I was so Apple crazy. Remember the original Apple was multicolor stripes, had a bite out of it? I hired a company to paint that on the end of our retail store in Oklahoma City. I didn't have authorization to do it, I just did it. You know, that's just kind of the way I did things back then. And now with this cryptocurrency in its infancy, and just to put it in perspective, the cryptocurrency, owners of cryptocurrency right now, there are less than 250,000 people own one or more crypto coin of any kind. I'm not talking about an entire coin, I'm just talking about a fractional part. Now, there's 9 billion people in the world. So only 250,000 are familiar with it enough to own a piece of the action. Now, cryptocurrency was not, the Bitcoin itself was not created to be an investment vehicle. None of the cryptos that I know of were invented or created to be investment vehicles. But because of the popularity and the rise and the demand, they have become so. So a lot of people have made millions of dollars, especially in 2017, trading in cryptos. So what I did back in 1975, 76, 78, I would go to schools and I'd take one of these computers and I would talk about what a CPU was and what memory was and I/O, input, output, and we're talking, you know, 5th, 6th graders, teachers, you know, educating the educators. We were starting Apple computer clubs and other kinds of computer clubs around, just sharing a knowledge. Now, that is what I am doing now. as the CryptoMan Can help you understand cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and more and more and more, hundreds of more. And now I'm getting into the ICOs. I have a philosophy that the more people I can help, I can have anything I want. If I just help enough other people get what they want, I can have anything I want. That's a famous quote from a guy, one of my mentors, Zig Ziglar. Old Zig. He passed away a few years ago, but he used to travel around the country doing motivational speeches and wrote several books. And he was a salesman. He really motivated me, so much so that I've got that on the bottom of my business card. Hopefully I didn't misspell cryptocurrency, but I did put the word free on my business card, which was a big mistake. We watched a webinar just a few days ago. My friend Greg is a chiropractor, and so we were watching this webinar, and Greg, not only are we doing the YouTubes, but we're going to be doing some webinars as soon as we get multi-camera setups and other stuff, better lighting especially. So anyway, we were watching this webinar, and the guy made a point toward the end of it. He said, if you put something out there and you advertise it as free, immediately people are turned off to that. They think it's a scam. They just don't like free. It's kind of like Linux. You know, for years, nobody wanted Linux because it was free. They're paying Microsoft huge amounts of money, Apple huge amounts of money. But Linux was just sitting there. It was the core thing of running the internet, and it was supported by hundreds and thousands of volunteers around the world, you know. But Linux, you know, Linus wasn't making millions of dollars off of it, you know, and he didn't want to. That wasn't part of it. It was a open source, that open source is very much what is behind the blockchain. When the Bitcoin was created and the blockchain was created, it was made open source. So if anybody wants to make their own crypto coin, they can go to GitHub, that's G-I-T-H-U-B, and they can download the code and make their own coin. They can do their own white paper, their own website, they can do their own ICO, and they can do their own crowdfunding. Many people have done that. So I'm not planning to do that. Some of them are just silly, funny, like Doge, D-O-G-E. It's just a funny crypto, but it raised a lot of money, and it went up in value, and then it came down, of course. So I'm telling you all this stuff about the early days of the microcomputer industry to let you know how excited I was about being a part of that, even though Apple, after a few years, decided that it's cheaper to build their own distribution than it was to buy the 6 distributors, me being part of that. And oh boy, yeah, I was counting my money thinking, ooh, not only can I get my return off of what I invested, hard dollar invested in high technology, but I'll get some Apple stock before they go public. Yeah, wow, what would that be worth? But I never built my apple-shaped swimming pool. I did buy a new house, but I did not build the apple-shaped swimming pool that I had planned. And it took me a few years to get over creating the Apple Bucks, which was a promotional thing that I had come up with, and on and on. But Lee is the most wonderful ex-wife that a man could ever have. We talk on Friday night, sometimes 3 or 4 hours. We had 2 children together. Unfortunately, our youngest one, Adam, was diagnosed with glioblastoma brain cancer when he was 17 and died at age 18. Just right, the prognosis was 1 year, and that's the same cancer that Ted Kennedy died of, and I think Warren Hatch has right now. And, it's a killer. It really is. And Um, there's some universities and hospitals that are working towards getting a cure for that. I think Duke is up there at the top of the list. St. Jude in Memphis is one that I am helping. I'm doing fundraising for them, and for a group here in St. Louis called Friends of Kids with Cancer. They were very helpful when Adam was going through his most horrible time. He had 2 brain surgeries, he had chemotherapy, he had radiation. None of that helped. I mean, we went down to MD Anderson. We considered some really wild kinds of treatments, and it was so sad. I was at church the other day, and I happened to take a Bible that I wasn't familiar with. It turned out it was Adam's Bible, and in the front cover had a list of all the friends that were at his bedside when he died, December 9th of 2003. And it just made cold chills as I recollected what that was like, staying with him all night, singing songs and saying encouraging things to him, and watching as he passed from this world into the next. So what I told you this thing about the webinar and about the free on my business card. I won't tell you all the details about why I took free off the business card, but I decided that I'm not going to give my stuff away for free. I have put donate buttons on my website. I put embedded donate buttons in my video. There'll be donate buttons embedded in this video and probably all of my videos in the future. And I am going to help organizations by doing fundraising through my intense desire to help others learn about cryptocurrency, and then I'm going to help others. I have no desire to become a multi-millionaire or billionaire. I'm not doing this for money. It's thrilling, it's exciting to be part of this. It's going to be a huge revolutionary change in the worldwide monetary system, and I'm part of it, just like I was part of the microcomputer revolution. And at 66 years old, I am so proud that I have enough energy to pull all-nighters and put all this energy into designing promotional materials to promote my websites. And this video, not this one, but the one I just did, the first video I did, the introductory video, is 32 minutes long YouTube. And it has already gotten over 3,000 visits. So I don't think I'll ever create anything that will go viral, but it is a good feeling to know that there are over 3,000 people out there that have a better understanding now of cryptocurrency than they did before maybe they saw my video. And I want to do this over and over and over. Right now I've got 10 videos to do. I have this one that I've just been wrapping up now, and then I've got the one on Blockfolio, which is a tracker that runs on your cell phone. Then I have one called Alt Pocket, which runs on a PC, maybe a Mac too, but it runs on a PC, and it's very simple, very simple. But what it does, it allows me to let others see my holdings. So on my website, if you come to my website and you look at the links, click, and you'll go right into my Alt Pocket account, and you can see what all of these, what I paid for them, how they're doing now. All of my 66 cryptos are out there for anyone to see. Now they can't go in, hopefully they can't go in and do anything, you know, like sell them or steal them or anything like that. And then I've already told you about Crypto Compare. I currently have 20 portfolios out there. And not only am I tracking my cryptos, but I've got my credit union accounts out there. I've got my Fidelity Investments account out there. I've got some of my credit cards that I carry balances on out there. So on one place, I can see all of my finances and know how I'm doing on all of it. That's not all automatic. I have to update them. But I've got almost everything set up so that, bam, like the other day I put on Facebook, I put about donating. And within 15 minutes, my phone had beeped me like 3 times. And when I looked at it, it said that my checking account had just gotten deposits based on 3 different donations. They amounted to $80, which wasn't much, but I then turned around and got in touch with, through the internet, with St. Jude's in Memphis, and I sent them $80. And as a result, they sent me back an electronic, they would have sent a paper one, but they sent me an electronic card that was, you know, in recognition of my son, Adam. And then I forwarded that back to the 3 people that made donations. This all happened within just bam, 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 just a matter of a few minutes to close the loop on all that. And so I'm looking forward. I have just, I am finished with it now. I made it public. My website, which is the CryptoMan Can, the CryptoMan.com, that's the dash, CryptoMan.com, roughneck vintage. That's ROUGHNECK vintage.com. That's in honor of my father, who worked in the oil field, and he was a roughneck. My older brother was, next brother was, and I was. We all worked in the oil field, rough work out in the panhandle of Oklahoma. So, so anyway, I'm honoring him. The CryptoMan Can is my business name now, the dash CryptoMan Can. So if you Google it, maybe you'll find it, maybe you'll find somebody else. But if you'll Google the CryptoMan Can help you understand cryptocurrency, you'll find me. Okay? And all my stuff's out there. My email, my telephone. I'm encouraging anybody that wants to know more about this to contact me. If you can come to St. Louis, come here. We'll have coffee. I have a coffee maker, a new one. My old one broke. It was cool. It was called a Chefman. I couldn't find a replacement for it. So I go to Walmart and I buy one of these Keurig K-Cup things. Brought it home and it's big and I didn't like it. I found out Best Buy has got a new Chefman. And guess what? It has Bluetooth. A coffee pot with Bluetooth and a USB port. So I can charge my phone on my coffee pot. And it'll play music from my phone through my coffee pot speakers. And I can make speakerphone calls through my coffee pot. Is that high tech or not? And guess what? It costs less than $50. So I'm learning about affiliate marketing. Woo! I went in, I made a review on that, and I plugged my sprays here, the CryptoMan Can help you understand. Put that at the bottom of my review. And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. A way to promote myself. And so I did a few more reviews. And then I discovered that Best Buy's got affiliate marketing. And so now I'm going to not only put my 10 promotional items out there that I have for sale, but I'm going to put my new coffee pot, my Chefman coffee pot. So you can buy it through me. Best Buy will fulfill it. You know, I don't know how much I'll get, but maybe there'll be a little bit of penance that will come my way and I can donate that somewhere. So anyway, I hope you've gotten an idea of how this old man is so excited about what I'm doing. I'll tell you, I've got 3 living children, 2 from the first marriage, and I had 2 from the second. I have 1 now. Like I said, Lee and I, she lives just 1 building over from me. I have my product shipped to her because it's safer. Her, she's got a closed patio, and I don't. So, but we're in constant communications, and we're good friends. We just can't stand to live with each other, which is great. I love it. I'm not planning any other relationships. I love to fish, And November 1st, they stock the ponds and lakes around the urban area in St. Louis with winter trout. So you have to, it's catch and release for all of November and January, but then in February you can keep a limit if you want, like 4, I think. Of course, you have to buy a trout stamp. But I'm 66, so I don't have to buy a license anymore. And so I do a bit of fishing. And then in the summertime, my brother, for the last few years, has been volunteering as a camp director at a church camp. I won't say it's a youth camp, but it's down between Chattanooga and Knoxville, Tennessee. It's in a little town, outside a little town called Benton, Tennessee. And it's right in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. It has a beautiful little lake. There's like 320 acres on this camp. It has, a dormitory with 6 different suites. It has, a laundry room, a dining hall, another dining hall. It has cabins, tent area, RV area, football field, soccer field, volleyball, sand volleyball. It's a wonderful little camp. If you ever have any desire to have a group that would want to go down to Tennessee. But I've been volunteering the last 2 years to go down there and help him. Andy is a very intelligent guy, PhD. He's ichthyologist, graduate from Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, which I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps. So right out of high school, 17, I go to Stillwater. Boom. Second semester, I was called in my counselor. He says, he said, you got 17 hours of F. He said, the way I said, you got 3 choices. He said, you already paid up in your dorm through the end of the semester, and your meals are all paid for. So you could just stay, if you want, through the end of the semester and keep partying like you've been doing. Or you can come to class, and maybe you'll learn a little bit of something, but there's no way you're going to pass anything. He said, or you can quit and you go home now. So I said, well, I'm paid up in the dorm and I kind of like partying, so I decided to do that till the end. And I had met a girl who became my first wife, and I got married in Stillwater, Oklahoma. She now lives down in, I don't remember, somewhere in Alabama. I tell you what, I could go on and on and on, but I've got to stop somewhere. So I'll just force myself to stop here and plead with you one more time. Please pass this information along to others. If you know anybody that's thinking about cryptocurrency for any reason, either investing or just want to know more about it or want to know what's happening with our world monetary system, please have them go to my website, my blog, or watch this video, or call me, text me, send me an email. Anyway, somewhere, get in touch with me, because I have a strong, burning desire to help others learn. Because if I help others right after I've learned something, it reinforces what I learn, okay? And that makes it possible for me to do a better job of helping the next person along. One of the things I was pleasantly surprised with is that the last video that I did was 32 minutes long, and I think this one may end up being longer than that. The closed captioning came on. I don't know where it came from. It's like magic. But I'm going, wow, you know what? I think I could take that as a transcript, and I could put it into a book, and I could self-publish a paper book that could be downloaded, PDF files, be downloaded, maybe do something with Audible or Amazon or something, but get my message out to a broader audience. So that's just a new idea that I've been kicking around. I mean, I only have an associate degree. How could I possibly be an author? It's like my head's getting bigger, 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 bigger. you know. But darn it, I've got a lot of information up here in my head from all these years, 40 plus years of being in the computer industry, and other things too. I worked for Monsanto as a contractor. I worked for Trans World Airlines. I worked for American Airlines. I've done a lot of other things, including working 5 years at a seminary as a janitor. I've sold. I've done network support. I've done a lot of things, and I've loved it. But this is the most exciting thing that I've ever done, by far ever done. So I hope you will take this as encouragement that if you want to get involved with something exciting, this cryptocurrency, and the other thing I'll end on is meetups, MEETUPS. That little group, or a big group I guess, but they have so many things that I can do now just by joining, like Arduino, a Raspberry Pi. Those little kind computer things, sort of like what I built to start with. I bought 3 of my grandkids. I bought them for Christmas, one for each. Then I bought one for myself. And my idea was, well, we'd do FaceTime and we'd play around with the little, kits. And we did a little bit of that. Then I thought I broke my granddaughters, and that's why I bought 2 more of them. They're like $11 each. $11 for a computer. They're actually microcontroller, to be exact. But hooks up to a USB port. You download it. You program in C. It's all easy peasy. And the starter kit that I got were like $50 from Amazon, and had all kinds of little things that you could hook up to the basic Arduino. And there's a guy called Eli, the computer guy, that does YouTubes, and he's done some series on Arduino. The hardest thing about it is knowing how to say it. Mine's called the Uno, U-N-O. There are a number of different varieties of them, but I'm having a blast with that. So it's not all about investing. My daughter's a little concerned about me right now because I'm so manic, and I've talked to my doctor about going back on. She's taken me down on my medication, as I take medication because I have tremors and I have seizures sometimes. And so I talked to her just a couple of weeks ago. I said, can I please go back up to my normal medication dosage? And she said yes. So believe it or not, this is pretty good for me. Woo! So I'm actually pretty sane right at the moment. So thank you for listening to me. Please tell others about the CryptoMan Can, help you understand Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and hundreds of altcoins. And as I learn about ICOs, I will post those on my blogs, along with lots of other information. So I'll be seeing you, I hope, hearing from you, I hope, and maybe our paths will cross someday in the future. God bless.